Today, we're going to be talking about rebrands and ranking them from S tier to D tier. Starting off strong, in my opinion, we have Burger King. It feels friendly. It still feels like the same kind of tone, but a little bit more modernized. I like that they kept that bright red. I can already tell it's very easy to use compared to the old one. It's very legible. I would not feel bad putting Burger King either in the A tier or the S tier, but I'm gonna say, just to start it off strong, my eyes, Burger King is S tier. It's iconic. Discord up next. This is their old logo here, and I think it's very obvious to tell what their intentions were. Gamer friendly, right? That's kind of who it was catered towards when it came out. With that in mind, their audience has shifted, and that's probably where this rebrand came to exist. Getting rid of the speech bubble, I think is fine. I don't think the speech bubble added anything to the brand. The typography is really, really unusual. I'm gonna put it in the middle, and we'll say it's a B tier logo. And I can even say, maybe let's get rid of the typography and just leave it as the mark. If it was just the mark that was rebranded, I would probably put it up to an A, but I think the typography brings it down at least one rank. And let's talk a little bit about Hellraisers. The only redeeming quality when this rebrand came out was that people had said, oh, it got a lot of attention, it got a lot of marketing because a lot of people were talking about it, and that's good, right? And I used to think that. This is the logo that changed my mind on that opinion because I started thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, people are talking about it, but people would talk about it if it was a good rebrand. So considering this logo completely altered my perception of logo design and how people release brands, I kind of feel obligated to put it in a D tier because it literally changed my life, and maybe not in a good way. So let's move on to the next one. This one maybe sparked some controversy between this idea of simplifying and oversimplifying. So I like that this logo, despite it being two circles, the use of color gives it depth because it almost feels as if you can see through it. Whereas this logo, it just looks like they're colliding. This was a great solution. I think it fixes all the issues of the old logo, and the most important thing, it's still recognizable as Mastercard. Most of the time when you do a rebrand, you're taking away from the old logo. You're getting rid of or fixing the mistakes of the previous branding. So I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Premier League, still very prestigious. It feels modern. I love the typography. The icon is great. You can already tell the old logo is really hard for it to hold up when it gets smaller. When you look at this Premier League logo, I could zoom out this far, you know? So it's very legible. I like the color choice. I'm pretty happy putting it in the S tier category. Moving into Burberry, I thought about why would these brands get rid of that personality? So these are fashion brands, and over time, they need to adapt to what people are interested in. Like, fashion is all about trends. It changes every year. Sometimes it changes every couple of months. I really like the typography, but again, going back to what I was saying, I get why they would update it and modernize it if that's their whole model as a business, is to do that with their products. But I feel comfortable putting it maybe in the C tier. I don't think they're doing anything really creative other than just staying up to date with what's trending. Up next, we're looking at Gap. They did a similar thing that companies like Burberry did. They tried to make themselves seem more like a modern, more luxury brand. For that reason, I don't think it really worked with their audience, right? Because Burberry has a very different audience from Gap. I feel more comfortable putting Gap in D tier. Instagram. So this is their old logo, so old, I almost forgot that this even existed. This was back when it was just an app icon and they had no reason to make it an actual corporate mark. This is a very successful rebrand. It's brighter, it's more fun. I get this strange feeling of community from this logo that I don't get from the old logo, which to me, eliciting that type of response, that emotional trigger, I think is really, really cool. It's like a feeling that you can't really describe fully, but it just feels more welcoming. Instagram, I think S tier, Nowack seal of approval, one of my favorite rebrands of all time. So now we're going to talk about Airbnb. It feels a little bit more premium. So this Airbnb, the old logo, to me, it almost feels a little bit sketchy. When I look at their new logo, I definitely get that sense of security. This brand, they seem like they know what they're doing. It looks like they've been around for a while. Airbnb, fittingly, I think would make sense in the A category for Airbnb. So let's move into Pringles. The mustache on his face is probably the most iconic part of his character. So I think that having his mustache huge in this new rebrand is a smart move. The hair doesn't really matter so much. I actually think it adds detail that probably isn't necessary. I do like the simplicity of the Pringles logo. I don't hate this rebrand. I don't love this rebrand. It's kind of in the middle for me, and for that reason, I think putting it in B tier, I'm pretty happy with. Moving on to Starbucks. This one, I love the Starbucks logo. So this mascot is based on their first ever store, which is located in Seattle, and it's supposed to be a siren, right? Because they're by the ocean. Obviously, even scaling out, zooming out a little bit, you can see that this Starbucks logo reads a lot better. And I think it's a strong rebrand, and it's taking a really great logo and making it even better. I feel pretty comfortable putting it in A tier. Going into Google, again, it takes over the qualities that are the most memorable, which in my eyes are the color and the way that it's typed out with the capital G and then lowercase everything else. I think that most people would feel comfortable either putting it in the A or the S tier, but because I can't think of a single thing that would improve this logo, I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Maybe we move it, maybe we don't, but I feel good having it there. So let's talk a little bit more about esports again. So Fnatic, I was so excited when this rebrand came out because I remember looking at this logo back when I was into CSGO. I was not a fan of this logo. When they rebranded into this one, I started feeling a little bit different. But this orange I definitely think feels a little bit more intense, which I think is what they were going for with that aggressive, sharper angle, right? I really like this. I'm really happy. It's now become one of my favorite logos in esports because it just takes all of the errors, but you still recognize this as Fnatic. I feel really happy to put an esports logo in the A tier because the rebrand I think was done really well. Let's talk about Twitch, the platform that I'm streaming on right now, twitch.tv/NowackDesign. You can find me live on Saturday, every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is one of the main issues I had with the old Twitch logo, where these gaps of negative space created a lot of inconsistency in the typography. You would have some letters like this, where they have thin lines in between, and then you would have letters like the T, the C, and even the H, and those make a difference when it comes to how we see the logo as balanced. Whereas this one now, the new logo, it's all consistent. It's all extremely balanced. I don't even think I need to line these up for you guys. Like, you can tell visually. Color-wise, I think it's way better. It's vibrant. Very minor changes, but coming from someone who loves typography, I would put in A tier. Intel, I get it. I'm not super impressed. This is like the idea of a 90s logo, is when it has this kind of globe orbiting line. We see so many old logos that use that because it was so trendy back in the day that I agree with their decision that it's probably not necessary. But at the same time, this approach to the logo, it's not especially exciting for me. We'll put it in B tier. Let's put it in C tier. So let's talk more about gaming, a little bit more about esports. Ninjas in Pyjamas. It still has a lot of detail. I would maybe say in this logo mark, a little bit too much detail, but it's definitely more usable. I would be happy to put this one in B tier. Let's talk about Petco for a second, because I don't think I really need to talk about this one too much. This, in my eyes, is the perfect example of a rebrand that makes absolutely no sense. Why would they take the most important part of their brand, this really memorable icon, which I understand they're probably trying to be more inclusive to all the animals. They don't just have stuff for dogs and cats. Why would they just say, well, we want to be inclusive, so we're just gonna, nobody gets anything. We're just gonna take out the icon completely, the mascot. Now we have no animals. They got rid of the color, and now it just looks like, what is this? I do not understand the decisions that went into it. And even the decisions that I do understand, I still don't get. Would anyone put this anywhere above D tier? Evil Geniuses, another gaming logo that might spark some controversy. The N had this kind of unusual cut to it. So the logo itself is very circular, it's rounded. The typography does not really match it. Here's the most recent edition of the Evil Geniuses logo. I think that this logo is an improvement. I want to put it in A tier because I really like what they've done with the brand over time. But if we're just going off of the logo itself, I would probably say that Ninjas in Pajamas and Evil Geniuses, when they rebranded, I felt pretty much the same. Moving into the very last one, probably one of the most recommended logos, which I haven't really studied up on too much. It's more balanced. You have this really nice contrast with these thick and thin lines in between. It still feels fast. I think that it's going to stay for a very, very long time. And I am going to put it among the other legends. So in S tier, just to do a recap, we have Burger King, Premier League, Instagram, Google, Formula One. In A tier, we have Mastercard, Airbnb, Starbucks, Fnatic, and Twitch. B tier, we have Discord, Pringles, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Evil Geniuses. C tier, Burberry and Intel. In D tier, all the way at the bottom, we have Hellraisers, Gap, and Petco. Take this with a grain of salt. I am just a designer, a young designer in esports that has some experience in branding. If you're watching this on YouTube, this was streamed on twitch.tv/Nowack Design. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.